BBC TV drama series Secret Army tells the Second World War story of evasion lines. At heart, Allied aircrew shot down in occupied Europe, evaded arrest, crossed France and the Pyrenees, and returned via Gibraltar to Britain. One such was Group Captain Bill Alliston.
We were just on our bombing run when a German night fighter came up underneath us, pumped cannon shells into our starboard wing, and in a matter of seconds, the whole of that part of the aircraft was on fire. At that moment, there was a blinding flash, as though somebody put a torch in front of my eyes. The next thing I remember is dangling on the end of a parachute. I thought I was coming down into water, and as you probably know, we had a drill that you must get rid of your parachute before you hit the water. They tell you in lectures that 40 feet off the top of the waves, you must get rid of your parachute. Of course, nobody told you how to gauge 40 feet at night time. But I'd turned this release grip, and I was just about to hit it, thinking I was going down into water, and I hit the ground with a terrible thud, nearly biting my tongue in two. Why I had my tongue out, I should never know. What in fact had happened, I'd fallen in a freshly ploughed field. The earth turned over, plus the hazy moonlight made it look like a sheet of water to me.
But bomber crew weren't the only ones to make terrifying landings on foreign soil. Many of the 3,000 evaders who found their way back to Great Britain were fighter pilots, like Flight Lieutenant Jack Missildee.
This, as you can see, is a Spitfire. It was some 35 years ago that I was flying one of these beasts with Paddy Finucane leading the squadron. We were flying on a sweep over northern France and came upon a gaggle of Focke-Wulfs and Messerschmitts, which we attacked. And unfortunately, from my point of view, I got shot down.
How did Secret Army turn these real wartime experiences into a fictionalized series for television? How was the series thought up, scripted, designed, directed, and produced? What went on behind the scenes?
Getting rid of the fuel was, of course, to get the weight down.
A day of research at the RAF Museum in Hendon for producer Jerry Glaister, story editor John Brayson, and the technical advisor to Secret Army, Group Captain Bill Randall.
This is the Wellington, very affectionately known as the Wimpy, as you probably know. And this aircraft, incidentally, is the only one left out of 12,000 that were built. This aircraft provided most of the evaders that went down the escape routes in 1941, 1942. It was the principal bomber being used in Bomber Command, and it was flying alongside the Whitley and the Hamlet.
By 1944, the Wellington had been superseded by the Lancaster, here under inspection at the RAF Museum by Jerry Glaister, producer of Secret Army and of a number of highly successful BBC television drama series.
Of course, these Lancs, as they were called, carried a crew of 6. They were often over Germany, raiding the Ruhr and other places. And many of the crews, of course, had to bail out when the aircraft was either shot at by fighters or ack-ack. And it's these crews that French and Dutch and Belgian people picked up and hid and eventually smuggled out through Spain and other places.
I produced, you probably know, I produced Colditz, and the head of the drama series department asked me if I had any ideas about something to do with the Second World War. Now, I had been a pilot in the war. I didn't fly one of these, I flew Spitfires, actually. But I had been a pilot during the war, and naturally my thoughts turned to something to do with aircrew. And it always seemed to me that there was a tremendous possibilities in a series dealing with the people who took the aircrew after they'd bailed out and hid them and smuggled them out. Now, they set up a series of organisations. They were marvellous people. They had tremendous courage because they were living in an area where there was no relief from strain. They were permanently under the surveillance of the enemy, and a lot of them were young people, a lot of them were young girls. A lot of the guides were young girls. In fact, one of the greatest people of all, who ran one of the best escape lines, was a woman about 25 years old. And it seemed there was a marvellous story to be told here, which integrated both the aircrew and the people who saved them. First thing we had to do, of course, was quite a bit of research. And I got hold of Group Captain Randall, who was the chairman of the RAF Escapers Club.
I give advice, and the technicalities of the advice deal with the history of the Royal Air Force, and also, of course, the way the escape routes operated, how the people on the escape routes went about their business.
We did a lot of research into the stories. We found there were a number of organisations, not just one. So what we were trying to do is form our own organisation from this. And this meant a lot of work, and we drew up our own escape lines, and the story editor had a great hand in all this.
Story editor John Brayson.
Well, having done the research entailed in my job, having discussed it with my producer so that I am clear on what he has in mind, because it is his series, then I will make out a brief containing as much as I possibly can in the way of research information, directives of general attitudes and approach towards the thing, a rough guide to the characters, perhaps a quarter of a page on each character, giving a sketchiness of background, and also a very, very brief outline of what is the running story for that batch of episodes.
Well, you base a lot of your stories on a series of incidents, rather than taking any actual documentary piece of fact and writing it up in toto. So what we do is we take perhaps 2 or 3 characters who may not have all appeared actually at the same time, but we will weave them together, perhaps 3 or 4 different incidents, and make it into a story. A lot of them are based on actual happenings.
One of the 5 writers shaping scripts from actual happenings is Willis Hall. By mid-January 1977, he is deeply immersed in the writing of several episodes of Secret Army.
Of course, it's a series that's already been on and you know who the actors are who are playing it, then it's quite easy to write for them. But if you're writing in this sort of vacuum where none of the parts have been cast, and you know that half a dozen people are also writing for these 6 faceless people, it's worrying, I think, to say the least, at the beginning. But it's always extraordinary how the scripts do come together, and on second draft they all start to become, the running characters suddenly begin to form, not only in your mind, but in the minds of the other six writers.
John Brayson's office.
The sheer economics of production have to be considered. I must make sure that there are the right number of sets, not too many, that there is only, in this case, 20% filming. You've given me a nice script.
Thank you.
I'm very happy with it, Jerry's happy with it. Episode 1's always a terrible thing to write, but Jerry and I are really very pleased with what we got here. I think we're very nearly home and dry. As it's a couple of weeks since you've written it, have you had any second thoughts of your own?
Well, only what I think, that the initial problem is still there, that I personally don't think that we are home and dry, that I think the script is wildly overlong at the moment, and it's like trying to cram a bottle of BBC Club wine into one small glass. That,
yes, I know.
You're asking Richard Baker to read World War I in one episode of the 9 o'clock news.
Well, I think we can get over the length business. I've got a solution to that, which I'll put up to you in a second. But from your point of view, what have been your problems with it?
Well, the main problem, as you know, is that I didn't know I was going to write episode 1 until we were halfway through the series, and I'd already written episodes, whatever they were, 8, 16, and something else.
Yeah, quite.
And it's this terrific problem of having to sort of create characters that you've already been writing about for 3 months.
Yes.
That you didn't know was going to happen. That's been my main problem.
Yes.
Also, this terrible problem of shooting back and forwards in episode 1, that you're going from Belgium to London and from London to Holland or where have you. And what you've got this sort of, which again is a problem of length, that what you're writing or trying to squeeze is a sort of epic film into an hour television segment.
Well, Jerry and I, on that one point, feel very strongly, and it also answers your previous point. We think it is quite unnecessary to go back to the exercise in the UK once you've established it.
What, at the end?
At the end and the second time.
You don't think
you go to it 3 times. We
Yes,
think that
yes,
once
you don't-
only
yeah,
is
yeah,
absolutely enough, so that we lose those
Those two-
second
the
two,
second-
and that gives us almost exactly the length we want.
Doesn't give us a good ending. I like the ending very much.
I know.
It's,
I know you're going to be difficult about this one, but look, what the thing is about is the
yes,
people
I knew you were
running
going
the
to say this
evasion
too.
line.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm going to tell you, don't you?
Yeah.
Because we think that the last scene in the first episode should be, in fact, when they move out of the restaurant Candide, they go out into the street, nighttime, looking up in the sky, the bomber's going over to bomb Germany. That's what it's about. Well, how do you feel about it? Would you accept that?
Yes, I suppose at the back of my mind, I've always known that shot was going to go, but I'm just happy to have written it down on paper once.
Yes, all right. And that also applies, I regret to say, to Dr. Kelderman's attic.
What do you mean that
Well,
we don't need it?
we've already got his waiting room. Can we bring the evaders into the waiting room rather than take everybody up to the attic? Because it's one more set we haven't got room
Yeah,
for.
sure, yeah.
I know it's not the way you'd like it, but that's,
Yes, well, can we do that, in
fact
fact?
of life.
Isn't that rather silly, that just moving them in there while we've got... I mean, at that time, we have got an SS officer in this surgery.
I'm presuming we get rid of the SS
Well, you
officer
think we get rid of the
first.
SS officer
Once
first?
again, going through it, it does, I think, work. It needs about 2 lines altering,
Yeah.
getting rid of the SS officer, and then bring these blokes in. But please, let's go into this in detail in a minute or two.
Sure, yeah. When you say moving them into the waiting room, what about the ones who are already upstairs in the attic? Do we just say that they're there then?
Once again, can we bring... No, I think it's a good idea to have them, but can we bring them in as well to be introduced to meet? Let us assume that the Kelderman surgery is no longer...
But it's the end of
occupied.
it's the end of the day.
SS
Lock
man
the
has
doors.
gone, virtually locked the doors, and we bring the visitors in to meet each other. I know it's...
Isn't that a bit too... I mean, how would Bill Randall feel about that? You've got these
He
people
probably
up in
wouldn't
the
like
attic,
it.
you can't say come down and
What
shake
the
hands.
hell can we do? We can't build
no,
another
sure,
set.
Yeah, we'll have to think of something then.
These are your travelling companions. This is your 3rd man.
You're the chap we've been expecting. What's your name, old son?
Frank Howes, Sergeant Pilot 150 Squadron, Snaith.
Stan Phillips, Pilot Officer. This is Stevie Harrison, Sergeant Navigator.
How do you do?
Both from 12 Squadron Driffield.
Assuming that we can solve all these minor matters, that we've got about 14 or 15 of them, you think that in most of the other areas that we are okay? I mean, do you think that we've done what we set out to do in the first episode and
Yes,
established
I think so.
and...
Let's just look at it. We've established completely what the series is about, insofar as we've given priority to the people who are running the evasion line. They've been established in their habitat, we've implied what they do, what their characters are. We have shown evaders on the run. We've implied by going back to the UK that there is some sort of education to RAF personnel in the expectancy of being shot down, what to do.
Sir,
Yes?
all right if we wash up and have a meal first? We haven't eaten properly for 2 days.
I thought I'd made myself understood. The exercise is not over. You're going away to be interrogated, and then you're coming back here. It's my thankless task, Sergeant, to teach you types how to survive if ever you're shot down. And there'll be no time